Okay, it's time for my 2021 year in review. We're going to look at my audition statistics for the past 12 months and see if we can find some takeaways from the numbers. There might be a few things that surprise you. In fact, there were a couple things that surprised me. So let's get to it. What's up, my fellow actors? Welcome to the Acting Career Center, here to help you learn the skills you need to break into the film and television industry. My name is Kurt Yu. Thank you so much for spending some time here with me today. If it's your first time here, make sure to subscribe to this channel to get more videos on acting, auditioning, and career advice. Today, we are going to do a 2021 audition statistics video. We did a very similar video last year breaking down my 2020 audition statistics. I'll put a link in the description to that video if you want to check that out. But we're basically going to do the same thing this year. We're going to look at my total auditions for last year, my total number of bookings, my booking percentage. I'll also try to break it down to number of movie auditions and TV show auditions and commercial auditions and anything else. Then we'll compare those statistics to my 2020 numbers as well as my 2019 numbers and see what kind of changes there were. And then I think it's important to take a step back and look at it overall and see what those numbers really mean to me. It's great to have the numbers, but we really want to analyze them and see what do they tell me about what's happening with my career, and then also what can they tell you about what's happening with your own career, okay? So before we get to all of that, if you are brand new to this channel, first of all, I want to say welcome. Thanks for being here. And if you haven't already downloaded my 10-step audition preparation guide, you can get it from that link right up there. I call it my audition cheat sheet. And it's my 10-step audition preparation process that I personally use that has helped me book over 50 movies and television shows. It's how I break down a scene and break down a character to really try to deliver the best audition that I can. So if you want to download that free PDF, you can get it from that link up top. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so I got my numbers over here on my laptop screen. So if you see me referencing this, that's what I'm looking at. I'll put the numbers over here on the side as well so you can kind of follow along, but let's get right into it. So in 2021, my total number of auditions was 135. And in those 135 auditions, I had 16 bookings, which is a booking percentage of 11.8%. All right, let's break that down now into what categories they were. So out of those 135, I had 81 auditions for TV shows / streaming shows. I put those kind of all into the same category. I guess episodic shows, I guess, would be the a better description. And out of those 81, I booked 10 of them, which is a percentage of 12.3%. And then I had 31 movie auditions, and out of those 31, I booked 5, which is a 16% booking percentage. And then I had 15 commercial auditions, and out of those 15, I booked 1, which is a 6.6% booking percentage. And then I also had 4 voiceover auditions, and out of those 4, I booked 0. And I'm not a mathematician, but I'm pretty sure that's a booking percentage of 0%. All right, so all of those add up to 135 total auditions, 16 total bookings, and a booking percentage of 11.8%. All right, now let's take a look at how those total numbers compared to last year and the year before, because 2020 was kind of a anomaly type of year, right, with COVID starting and everything like that. So in 2020, I had a total of 74 auditions and 10 bookings, which with a percentage of 13.5%. And in 2019, which is probably a better comparison, I had a total of 123 auditions, 12 bookings, and a percentage of 9.8%. All right, so obviously 2020, because of the shutdown, I think there was a good 4 to 5 months or something where there was absolutely nothing going on, no auditions, nothing being filmed, right? And so that really skews those numbers. But if you look at 2019, I had maybe 12 more auditions than that year, a few more bookings as well. So that's a good comparison year. Now, let's take a look at what these numbers mean, especially for newer actors. If you're kind of new, what should you take away from this? I think the thing that stands out to a lot of people if they don't really understand the industry, is that percentage. So you look at 2021, my booking percentage is 11.8%. That's roughly normal for me. On average, it's been about 10% over the past few years since I've been in Atlanta. Some years lower, some years a little bit higher. And if you don't really understand the industry, you look at that percentage and you might say, oh man, you only book 10% of your auditions? You suck. But in actuality, 10% is actually a very high number. Most working actors, now I don't have a source that I reference or anything like that, but just based on my experience, all the actors that I know, everything that I've read, most working actors book somewhere between 5 to 10 to 12% of their auditions. If someone's booking 15% or more of their auditions, they're considered to be on fire. That's really how competitive this industry is. And that's where I want newer actors to really understand these numbers and see what's more realistic in this profession. Because look, I've had some young actors ask me, hey Kurt, I've gone on 5 auditions and I didn't book any of them. What does that mean? Well, it really doesn't mean anything. In fact, this year I had a streak of about 23, 24 straight auditions without booking any of them. A couple years back, I had a streak of almost 40 auditions without booking any of them. And that's an actor who's been doing this for over a decade. There's ups and downs in this industry, and there's a bit of luck that's involved with auditioning as well. So just looking at such a small sample size of like 5 to 10 or 15 auditions, that really doesn't tell you anything. In my opinion, you really need to have 50, maybe even 100 auditions before you can look at the numbers and really try to get any information out of them, right? I'm telling you this like low booking percentage to encourage you. I'm not saying it to discourage you, right? It's really should be encouraging, because if you are starting out and you go on a few auditions, you don't book anything, don't be discouraged. Don't be down on yourself. Just know that that's part of the industry, right? And it doesn't mean that you won't have success in the future. Now, one more thing I want to bring up as far as the numbers go is that I don't necessarily want you to compare your numbers to mine, because we could be in vastly different situations. Some of you might look at my 135 auditions and you're thinking, oh wow, I would love to have 135 auditions, or I would love to have half of that, or even a quarter of that, right? But I want you to understand that I didn't just get these auditions overnight. They didn't just kind of magically appear. I've worked my way up to getting to this point. I've been doing this for over a decade now, right? So if we actually look at my numbers from back in 2011, 10 years ago, I had a total of 10 auditions that year. 10 in the whole year. That's less than 1 audition a month. And then I've slowly progressed to get to this point, right? So be careful looking at your situation if you're just getting started and thinking that, oh man, I'm not getting enough auditions because this person is getting over 100 auditions. But it will take time to get you to that point. I'm not saying that it's going to take 10 years or whatever, however long it took me, but it's going to take some time. Some of you, it's going to take that much time. Some of you, it might take less, but it still will take some time to get to that point, right? If you look at those 135 auditions, let's break down like what are the factors that contributed to me getting that many this year. Part of it is all my experience over the past decade and more. I've gotten better as an actor over the past decade. If I was the same level of actor back in 2011, this year I probably wouldn't get that many, because casting directors and producers wouldn't trust me for some of those types of roles that are bigger, right? Another reason is that I've been networking over the past decade and more. I've been building relationships with my agents, with casting directors, producers, and directors. Like all of that also contributes to me getting more auditions. Finally, I think it can't be ignored that I live in Atlanta. Atlanta's a big production market. Back in 2011, one of the reasons why I only had 10 auditions that year is because I lived in Cleveland, Ohio. Now that's not a huge production market. After I moved to Atlanta, that's when I started seeing my auditions really start to go up, because it is a big production market here in this city. Now, the 3 biggest cities in the U.S. as far as production goes are Atlanta, New York, and Los Angeles. So if you are in one of those big markets, you can expect to see more opportunity. If you're in a smaller market like I was in Ohio, you can expect to see less opportunity. And in other cities around the world as well, like Vancouver's another big market, London's another big market, and I'm sure in other countries there are cities that have more production than others. So that all factors into it. So when you try to compare numbers, make sure you look at all those factors and don't think that just because you're not getting as many auditions as I am or somebody else is, you guys may not be in the same types of situations. Remember, I've talked about this before. Acting is a long game. It's a marathon. So the more experience that you get, the more opportunities that you'll get, the more they'll start to trust you, the more auditions you'll start to get. So eventually you will get there. Don't expect it all to come to you right at the beginning. All right, now I want to talk about some of my highs and lows for the year. So in 2021, it was actually my best acting year since I started. It wasn't the most bookings I've had over the year, but it was the most time that I've spent working on set. I booked 16 jobs this year, but I spent a total of 41 days on set. Now, I think in 2017, I actually booked more jobs. I booked 23 jobs that year, but I only spent 28 days on set that year. So what does that mean? That just means that I'm booking bigger and better roles right now. I'm getting guest star roles and recurring roles that require me to be on set more often. So back in 2017, I had booked more, but they were mostly day player roles, whereas now I'm starting to get somewhat better and bigger roles that sees a progression in my career, right? So that's a huge highlight. Another huge highlight of this year was the release of Black Widow. I didn't book Black Widow this year, or last year in 2021, you know what I mean. I didn't book Black Widow in 2021. I actually booked it back in 2019 and worked on it in 2019. So that was a highlight then, but it finally came out in theaters in 2021. It was a full, almost 2 years later, more than 2 years later, because it was supposed to come out in 2020, but the pandemic happened, all the theaters shut down, they had to keep pushing it and pushing it, so finally came out then. I did make a video about my experience working on Black Widow. I'll put a link to it down in the description if you want to see that. Another huge highlight was Cobra Kai bringing me back for season 4. If you remember, my character first worked on the show back in season 1, and then they were going to have another karate tournament in season 4. If you haven't watched Cobra Kai, I love the show, definitely go check it out. But it was great to be back working on it again with my All Valley Tournament committee members. So that was another big highlight of the year. Another huge one was working on the show Dope Sick. Now, I had a very small role on Dope Sick. I was only there one day in one small scene, but the scene was with Michael Keaton, who was my Batman when I was growing up. So working with Batman himself in that scene was incredible. And then, of course, Michael Keaton ended up going on to win the Golden Globe for his performance in Dope Sick. So huge congrats to him. And it was such a privilege and an honor to work with him on that particular show. And another huge highlight for me in 2021 was that I had 5 auditions for series regulars. Now, in the past 5 years, I think I had a total of 5 auditions for series regulars in TV shows. And in this past year alone, I had 5, which was, I think, again, speaks to the progression of my career, of me building relationships, building trust with casting directors. Also, it shows Atlanta kind of changing in its landscape, and casting directors and producers seeing more local actors for the bigger roles. So in those 5 series regular auditions, I was actually pinned for one of them, and I was sent to producers for another one. So I think all of that is good news. Even though I didn't book any of those 5, I think that's all good news as far as career progression goes. Like I said before, it's all about seeing the long term in this career and always looking forward. So I think all of that can only mean good things in the future. Now let's look at some of the lows for the year. I did have a couple roles get cut. One of them was a guest star, which is kind of surprising, but it was that whole storyline ended up getting cut for the show. Another one was for a show that I've been wanting to work on in Atlanta for so long, and I got super excited that I finally got to work on it, but the character ended up getting cut. Again, these things happen. I've talked about it in previous videos. I haven't done a percentage of my roles that have gotten cut before. Maybe I'll try to track that and talk about it next year. But off the top of my head, it's maybe around 5 to 10%. So there is an actual significant amount of roles that will end up getting into the cutting room floor when you're working in this industry, especially when you're first starting out. Because when we're first starting out, we're working on those smaller roles, those supporting roles that are kind of just there to move the story along. And sometimes those are the first to get cut to make the script a little bit tighter in the movie, or just for timing purposes, they need to remove some scenes. Those smaller roles tend to be the first to get cut, and it just happens in everyone's career. Another low for the year was that there were a few roles that I probably could have gotten, but I ended up, I think, taking myself out of the running due to conflicts, due to either being on vacation or maybe being on set. And when they checked my availability, I just knew, oh man, I have all these dates where I'm not available. They're probably going to go with somebody else. And in those cases, they did. So it's a good problem to have, though, right? Especially if it's because I was on another set. So those are, first world problems when it comes to acting when you get to that point. But overall, just a few lows for the year. I feel like my highs far outweighed my lows in 2021. So those are my highs and lows for the year. All right, so that was my 2021 year in review. I hope you like this look into my numbers and my audition statistics over the course of the year. We'll do this again next year so that we can do a comparison going forward. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel to get more videos every single week. And until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and I hope to see you on set one day.